One of the paradoxes of manifestation is that when we feel a gap between where we are and where we're trying to get to, one of the fastest ways to close that gap is to actually more fully embrace the current conditions of where we are. So that can look like accepting the reality and being very lucid and honest with yourself about those limitations. But it can also be a matter of seizing the opportunities that are inherent in your current situation that can give you a taste of that thing that you're trying to call in. So to give you an example, the other night we did the group readings as part of my Soul Detective membership. And this month we were looking at manifesting home. And one of the participants in the class is someone that I know is looking to move abroad, to leave where they're living in the US and live somewhere like I'm living right now in Costa Rica. And the message that came through me when we were channeling for her in the context of the group readings was that by her more fully taking advantage of where she is, she would be able to more quickly let it go, having embraced it fully and accepted it and really dove into its potential. She would then be able to let it go and more quickly make the transition to a move somewhere else. And I can look back at my own experience and verify this kind of hypothesis. I wanted to move out of Montreal for so long, not because I didn't love it, but because I felt I belonged somewhere else. And the last couple of years, I was very clear through my own manifestation process, my self-healing work, my daily rituals. I was very clear on the kind of life I was envisioning in the place that I wanted to relocate. And I was doing that work to close that gap by being proactive and, starting a remote business, seeking out expanders, people who were living lifestyles similar to the ones that I wanted to lead. But I also closed that gap by finding ways to tap into what I was looking for in my current situation. And so one of the examples of that is food. In Costa Rica, I am eating from the farmer's market, organic produce that's grown locally, from grass-fed CR or Tony's, which are these two butchers that produce pasture-raised animal products, meat and dairy, raw, grass-fed, in livable conditions for the animals. And it's easier to do that here, right? Things grow in abundance here. There's a much more sense of local producers. We have the kind of infrastructure set up for that, a weekly market. So one of the ways that I was closing that gap when I was in Montreal is through conscious consumption, where I was getting my food. And so even though I was in this big city and it would have been really easy just to go to the supermarket at the corner and, buy things in bulk, buy them from mass producers, I was making a real effort to create the kind of food ecosystem that I wanted. So almost all of the produce that we had in our house came from Loofah Farms, which is this amazing organization that delivers baskets to your house every week. They take the baskets back, and they had all kinds of small scale producers from the city and around the province that you could order through them. I also went almost, a couple of times a week to our local butcher, who we were very fortunate was an ethical butcher. And so they only bought meat and dairy from farms that they knew very well, that were permaculture, that were pasture raised, that were ethical. And I only bought any animal products through them. So that's one of the ways I did it. We also had a no waste grocery store, two of them actually. And I would bring my jars and I would bring my bags and I would, weigh them and have a no waste shopping experience. So it really kind of set me up for the environment I'm in now. Another thing is I wanted to be more connected to nature. And obviously, being surrounded by lush greenery everywhere in Costa Rica, you don't have that anywhere. It was harder to tap into in the middle of the city, but it wasn't impossible. And I would go for these walks in the middle of the day to break up my workday, sometimes at the end. And I would try and recreate these kind of natural contexts for myself in that urban environment. And so we had a mountain not too far away, and there was a beautiful cemetery. And even if it was extremely cold, minus 30 or 40, I would get dressed up completely, sometimes walking through snow up into my knees, and I would trek through the cemetery, and I would feel that fresh air, I would feel the elements, I would feel the weather, I would walk in the rain sometimes, and the movement, the plants or the whatever little animals were around, just being outside and moving gave me a taste of the life that I wanted to create, even if it wasn't in that urban environment. I also started workshops with some partners like Cabinet de Curiosité, where I would host workshops and subjects around spirituality that, frankly, those interests were not really a part of my social scene, but I created alternate social ecosystems through hosting workshops with like-minded communities, and I would meet those people. They became potential audiences for my business as well. And so all of these things that in Nocera are kind of handed to you, right, where I'm living now, like I said, the farmers markets, the conscious community, the outdoor nature culture, exercise lifestyle, those things were not given to me in Montreal, but I wove them in to my daily life there through making these little shifts and alterations that gave me a taste of the life that I was trying to create and manifest. And it really did close the gap. It no longer was this sort of abstract thing that was far off in the distance. It was something that I was already living on a day-to-day basis. And paradoxically, I think that being in that state of being made making this concrete leap to relocate not feel so big and so scary. So I just encourage you that if you're not living in the kind of environment that you want to be living, you're looking for the right place for yourself, you do need to take the time and do the self-healing work, do the manifestation work, set those intentions, expose yourself to people who are living the life that you want through podcasts and Instagram and interviews and all those kinds of things. And that conscious work is the stuff that we're doing in the Soul Detective membership, right? We just spent this whole month on manifesting home. We're putting into practice the things we can do to close that gap. But I would say that on the other side of that paradox, instead of just trying to get to your destination, how can you bring your current life into alignment with that end goal? How can you start to weave in a taste of that destination into your actuality where you are? And those two things will help you close the gap.